Hello, my name is Michaela, and tonight I will be talking about the ethical violations in the state of Louisiana. Although I am currently living in Mississippi, I grew up most of my life in Louisiana, and their information was more readily available, so I decided to do that state instead. It did show that there are about 24 active cases involving disciplinary action to counselors on the LPC Louisiana Board of Examiners website. And almost 40% of those have to do with not meeting licensure requirements. And a good part of that section was not submitting NBCC scores. For whatever reason, that was a common complaint. And one particular case of not meeting licensure requirements, that was actually the most recent one this year. It says that the person at hand was practicing as a licensed professional counselor, so to speak, but they were not actually licensed, so they were pretty much falsifying those credentials. And of course, this does go against the ACA Code of Ethics C4 for professional qualifications. So that person was subject to a lot of fees, like most of the disciplinary actions. But of course, they were told and kind of demanded, of course, to cease using the licensed professional counselor title, because that, of course, was against any sort of standards and they were falsifying their credentials at that point. And then as far as what impairment is said when it comes to the ACA Code of Ethics, there are kind of three main points that it makes. First, they want counselors to assess where they are at and kind of keep tabs on their wellness, making sure that they are not becoming impaired counselors. And the next step is that if they were to find themselves being impaired in any way, they needed to refrain from practicing counseling pretty much immediately until they were back and fully able to help their clients to the best of their ability. And then the third thing kind of goes outside of just yourself, and they extended it to other counselors as well and the colleagues that counselors work with, making sure that they are accountable and that you are there as a support system for other counselors to not fall into that impairment as well. So those were kind of the three main points that the ACA Code of Ethics hit on. And the question that brings to mind when talking about the impairment and ethical violations is, what do you think, or do you think impairment had anything to do with the ethical violations? Because I know when I look at some of these ethical violations, I always say, oh my goodness, I would never do something like that. But obviously we're people and we are imperfect, and there are normal people making normal mistakes, just as we could. So what do you think led to that common mistake in needing disciplinary action? Was it the impairment, or was it possibly something else? I'd love to hear your thoughts.